My background has been in high performance sport, team sport for the most part, for over 2 decades. My most recent team role was with the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA. Served the team 9 years as the head strength and conditioning coach and 5 as the director of performance science, where a big part of my role was playing on a small team of people that introduced new technologies to athletes. And we experimented with a lot in those times, and both from a recovery and a performance standpoint. And I was the guy that would normally approach a lot of the players with new technology that the team wanted to understand a little bit more to see if it could help the team in any of our initiatives. So during that time, you learn a lot about how to approach an athlete with a new idea or a new concept, and how to successfully navigate that tricky situation to where they actually use it and then hopefully use it consistently for the intended benefits. Early in my career, I worked for American football teams, as an undergraduate student, worked with the strength and conditioning staff with the football team at Temple University. I then was an intern and assistant strength and conditioning coach with the Philadelphia Eagles for a season. I went on to be the head strength coach for the Barcelona Dragons of the NFL Europe League, and then spent a year with Hofstra University football as their head strength coach as well. During my time in the NBA, I also served as an active member for the National Basketball Strength and Conditioning Association, the strength coaches group for the NBA. And 8 of my years, I actually served on the executive board in different capacities, 2 of those years serving as president of the association. Yeah, the mission of that group is to advance the initiatives of the strength and conditioning coaches in the NBA. There is a big continuing education component where you service your members by helping them grow and develop with respect to their knowledge on being a strength coach and career guidance and the landscape of the NBA as it relates to that position. That is a big one. And then the big service that group provides to the NBA is all centered around the NBA pre-draft combine, where the strength and conditioning coaches serve as the practitioners that implement all the testing, the anthropometric measurements and the performance testing for the NBA combine, and then pass that data along to the league and the individual teams as a criteria for the upcoming draft. Implementing sports technology can be a tricky situation for sure, because athletes, I think professional athletes, in my experience, my opinion, are generally skeptical and don't just blindly buy in just because someone tells them to or anything. So there's a little bit of a trust factor that has to be earned. And I think if you take a measured approach to implementing any piece of technology, that it can be that tricky situation can be successfully navigated. I think a big piece first is to try it out yourself. I would do this personally amongst other staff members. My time with teams certainly could apply to nutritional supplements as well. But to understand and develop your own story with use of technology like a CoolMitt or any of the other available technologies that are out there for recovery or performance, to use it yourself during your own workouts. Invite other staff members that are regular exercise participants to use it as well, and give you feedback on them before you even think of introducing it to players, I think is a really strong first step. It enables you to understand it. It enables you to work to troubleshoot it, to understand even how to turn it on. How long does it take? What are the steps to set it up during the day? There's a bunch of logistical type things you'll learn, because you don't want to fumble with that and try to learn that in front of the athlete the very first time you're using it. You want to position this thing as you are sort of the face of it and you're the expert before you even bring it to an athlete. So once you do that and you kind of understand and begin to get to have a little more clarity on how it can be used and the effects of it, from there, I think it's important to select the right athletes, the right participants at first. Each team has sort of a distribution of athletes that are open and willing to participate in new initiatives, or and you can tie that to workout attendance maybe, or just compliance in general. But probably a good idea to select some of those, good soldiers, so to speak, that are generally open to new ideas and motivated by different ways to improve their own individual performance, to not try to implement one piece or a CoolMitt with the entire team at once, but really select 2 or 3 athletes that will commit to using it the way it is advised to be used over the course of some time, not once or twice, but to, just like you did at first, is to gain a real, true, genuine understanding of its use and its capabilities, that they would be open to using it in different workout scenarios, possibly building it in even, first probably in between workouts in a weight room, because that's not very public, and, you don't necessarily have to answer many questions, but maybe want to use it in between practice, maybe try different scenarios, bring it on the road, bring it at home, and allow that story to be told from just a small sample size of athletes first. And if you can tick those first 2 boxes, your own use and then that of a small cohort of athletes on the team, then I think it would be a successful strategy to roll it out more on a team scale once everybody believes in it and understands the true use and capabilities of it. The use of the CoolMitt, it's most effective. It's truly only effective when the body is in an overheated state. So to choose the activities where that occurs most readily or most frequently is a very successful strategy. And those opportunities in a team setting, I think there's a handful of them. First off, in a weight room setting, it would be any sets that you program to failure. Again, pull-ups is the easy one, dips, possibly push-ups, or in a multi-set exercise, compound exercise, if you do perform that final set to failure, a burnout set, so to speak, that those are the ideal strength opportunities to use in between sets. And there's a chance you'll see some type of noticeable improvement within those higher volume sets. Again, either more reps per set with cooling in between sets, or potentially the ability and the feeling of the athlete to communicate after the pre-planned sets are done that maybe they feel ready to do another set. That's very possible. So that's the strength component. The second one would be modality-based conditioning, that maybe in a return to play setting or anything, and you're bringing an athlete back, maybe he's not in a practice setting just yet, but you're using some supplemental conditioning on a bike or a Jacob's ladder or a Versa climber or treadmill intervals, any one of those opportunities where you're doing repeat sprint work, that in between those sets, or those reps of repeat sprint activity, that you would have the athlete just step off the unit and cool in between. And again, just like the strength, probably be able to demonstrate some measurable effect on each of those sprints. If you're capturing any metrics, watts per kg on a bike, or distance covered on a treadmill sprint, or anything, that as heat begins to accumulate over the course of a 10, 12, 15 rep set of modality-based conditioning, that there will be a noticeable difference towards the end of that as heat begins to accumulate in your body. And then that same thought process could be applied to ground-based conditioning as well. Preseason, off-season training leading up to the start of preseason or training camp, as athletes get out on the field and you're doing distance shuttles, you're doing any kind of track work or repeat sprint work actually on the ground. It's portable enough, it's simple enough to use, that you could bring that out, or a couple of the units out, and have your athletes cool in between each of those sprints, particularly in hot, humid environments. For an American football or a soccer team that's going that trains in the outdoors during the summer months, that would also have a noticeable effect on the later sprints in one of those workouts. CoolMitt can be used in game as well, and there are many teams that have taken on units in the past year that have chosen to use it with their athletes in game. There are a few opportunities, and some sports lend itself better to the use than others. That's certainly has to be stated. But anytime there's a break in the action and the athlete doesn't have to go right back in, or it's an unplanned substitution to go back in, where you wouldn't want to interrupt the flow of a game or delay return to action, But if there is particularly a sport like baseball where there is a clear recovery period or downtime when a team is batting and players are sitting in the dugout, that is a unique planned opportunity of recovery within that sport where cooling fits very well. If you look at the sport of basketball, rotations are fairly set within teams. They usually are. There are planned times within a game that players go in and are subbed out of games. And the real time that a player sits on the bench could accumulate to 10, 15 minutes in between rotations on the court. So that is also an optimum time to just take out a CoolMitt, because it's so small and easy to use, that you could cool in between time on the court and have a noticeable effect on performance, as you know, as a way to mitigate heat accumulation throughout the course of a game. There aren't many options that influence late game outcomes that an athlete can, I should say, conveniently use over the course of a game. Most of the recovery modalities that are common and popular and chosen are post-game options when you think about them. Cold water immersion, or hot and cold contrast baths, or pneumatic compression, or saunas, or soft tissue. Most of them are all designed to be true post-activity modalities, either through difficulty and setup, or just the time that it takes to get a noticeable improvement. That's not the case with a CoolMitt, because it is so easy and practical to use and takes little to no time to set up, and certainly even less time for an athlete to begin use of it, that it gives you an opportunity to, the cooling during a game gives you an opportunity to actually implement and use a recovery modality within the same timing of competition, either in breaks when athletes are subbed out, or the planned breaks of a halftime or in between periods, and potentially influence late game performance by mitigating heat, the accumulation of heat within the body. One of the things that attracted me to become involved in the CoolMitt project was its practicality and was its ease of use, that it's different than other recovery modalities in just how easy it can be worn and used and implemented from a practitioner in giving it to an athlete. So it's as simple as, the setup is very simple. Most of it would be done even before a workout or the training day or a game starts, where you would just create the ice slurry and you would basically turn the unit on and just have it running until you're actually ready to use it. And then it's simple as just delivering it over to the athlete, bringing it over to the athlete, making sure it's not in the way for somebody to kick it, or it's not going to be in the way of somebody that's working out on another piece of equipment in a weight room environment, but it's conveniently located somewhere close by. And then as soon as an athlete completes a set, that he just walks over and slides one hand into the CoolMitt and still can have another hand free to do whatever it is he needed to do. Hydrate, pick up a bottle and rehydrate, or some athletes want to check their phone in between or anything like that. That all can still be done with one hand. And the other beneficial effect is there is a way to actually sort of double cool, so to speak, where you can double the effects of cooling just by simply sliding out the perfusion pad out of the black cover and using two hands on the mitt. So now you can maximize cooling, either shrink the total amount of time that you need to cool to have the same effect, or magnify the effect in using it at the same time. So in either of those cases, super simple, super easy to use, which makes it an attractive option for in-game recovery.